Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of My Big Fat Junk Drawer. This is a very special week. It's Mother's Day week. By the time this drops on Thursday, it'll be approaching Mother's Day. So what better way to celebrate this year than to force my mother into doing a podcast episode? I can't think of anything better. So before I introduce her, I think I'll start by reciting an old Mother's Day poem from second grade. We had a Mother's Day program. I totally remember my mom actually had to work that day, but my dad and my sister came. I just remember bits and pieces of it. It was all flower related. I think all of us had, some sort of flowery poem we had to recite. And mine was, here's a bowl of flowers for Mother's Day, as lovely as can be, to set upon a table for everyone to see. Narcissus and forsythia, and there are others too, all there blooming so bright for you. And since second grade, every Mother's Day, I call my mom and recite my second grade poem. So let me introduce the lady that gave me life, Joyce. Hi, Mom.
Hello. Pardon my voice.
Oh, it's beautiful. It'll all come out in the wash, I promise.
I can hear that poem over and over.
I know. Every year.
Every year.
I have mine like a steel trap.
Yes, you do.
I remember way too much. But today, like I said, I forced my mom to be on here. She has been trying to think of junk that she could pull out of her junk drawer, but she came upon a couple of items that pretty much set the tone and made her life just snowball into where she is now. So, Mom, what did you bring from your junk drawer today?
Well, I have my hair cutting scissors and my razor.
Yes.
That I used when I was a beautician.
Way back in the day, right?
Yes, when I was 18.
So you graduated from high school, you graduated in 1959, is that
correct?
Right? Probably a lot of women your age either got married right out of high school or they became teachers or maybe cosmetology. Was that usually what it was? Or
well, most of them. There were quite a few that married out of high school. Other ones just got jobs wherever they could find them. Back in 59, it was very difficult to find a halfway decent job, mostly factories and things like that. But I decided I wanted to go to Columbus and go to beauty school. Well, my mother didn't think it would work out because I was never interested in doing hair before. So
what made you want to do it?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Well, it was a long time ago.
Yes, it was a very long time ago. So I don't really remember. I know the summer after I graduated from high school, I went to Cambridge. And I worked in a factory for the summer to earn some money.
What factory? What kind of factory was it?
It was an electronics company.
What did you do there?
Actually, I did things on a record player. It was on a...
What? This is something I've never heard of.
It was on an assembly line. And the record players would come to me. There was people, in line. And my job was to hook down the tone arm with some gadget that I had to have. So one day it got backed up.
Was it your fault?
Well, yes, probably. I started sitting record players on the floor. So my supervisor wasn't too happy with me, but I finished out the summer. And then I moved to Columbus.
And had you already enrolled in your beauty classes, or did you move there you were already enrolled?
No, I already had enrolled and everything.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but it was quite earth-shattering.
I bet.
From a girl that lived in a town with about 2,000 people.
Yeah.
To go to the big city on my own.
Yeah. Well, and that was Eastern Ohio. We come from a coal mining family.
Correct. Yes. My father was a coal miner.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very different. Very different.
Big city life.
Yes. I had to learn to be on my own.
Mm-hmm. And you were 18.
I was not quite 18.
Okay. Ooh.
I graduated when I was 17. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't 18 until in February. Mm-hmm. So it was very difficult. Very, very difficult. I had to learn to start taking care of myself, which was rather hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard time.
Yeah. Now, when you moved there, did you already have a roommate set up?
I stayed they had a house that they had the students could stay in. It was like a dorm-like place. And I stayed there for a while. And after I was out of beauty school, my sister and brother-in-law lived in Whitehall. So he was a teacher. He had graduated from Ohio State, and he was a teacher at Whitehall. So I did go. I stayed with them for a while, and then after they left, I got an apartment with some girls. It was just, very different, very trying, very, very trying.
I bet having to buy your own groceries, pay your own bills, figure out how all that worked.
It was very tough.
Yeah,
very, very tough.
That's a young age too, to be put out on your own.
Yeah, it was for someone who'd never been away from home.
Yeah, and where you're from is very rural, so
right. Yeah. And I was really homesick for a while. It took a while to get over the homesickness.
Yeah,
you just adjust to the time and things.
Yeah. So did you enjoy beauty school? What were some your most memorable moments?
Yes, I learned a lot of different ways to cut hair and do manicures and all that type of thing. Made some good friends, still friends today. So one of my one of the other students, I became good friends with her, and I fixed her up with one of my buddies from high school. He was going to Ohio State. And he kept telling me he wanted me to fix him up with somebody. So I introduced him, and they just celebrated their 61st anniversary in January.
Wow. Yeah, they're great.
Yes, they're great people. Great people. I still keep in touch.
Yeah.
We talk all the time. So it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun. I met a lot of different people, and it took a year to finish. You had to have so many hours put in. So my first job was across the street from the beauty school, and I was only there maybe a couple months, and I don't exactly remember how, but the gentleman, someone hooked me up with the guy that I went to work for and worked for him until I moved to Jackson.
Did you have any crazy things happen when you did hair, like turning hair orange or things like that?
No, I never had anything turn orange, thank God. I did one day. I was shampooing a lady, and our bowls were in order. So as I was shampooing and rinsing the hair, someone turned their water on or off, and mine shot up and knocked the hose out of my hand, and it went flying around. Practically drowning my customer. But thank God she was very, very nice, and she just laughed it off. But that's one of the doozies that I did.
What kind of things did you and your friends get into on the weekends? What was it like in the late 50s, early 60s in Columbus?
Well, like smoking a cigarette.
Mom.
One girl and I decided we'd smoke.
Oh.
And everybody else was smoking. So everybody in the house was smoking but us. So we decided, well, we'd get some Pall-Malls and we'd go outside. So we went outside and we smoked. We took 2 or 3 puffs from him. Well, I got sick. And the other girl, I have no idea where she is now. I can't even remember her name. But I do know that I never smoked after that.
No, you never did.
Never did, no.
Well,
I had no desire to smoke a cigarette because it made me so sick. So I was thankful for that.
Yes.
That I did get sick. But we had some pretty good times. Our house was next to a bar, but once in a while we would go there, not a lot.
Is that when you used to get thrown out of bars because you were underage?
No, that was at the ones on campus. Yes, I did get kicked out. That was when I had an apartment with some other gals.
Mm-hmm.
We used to go over to the bars at
South Heidelberg.
Southburg, yes. And that was our place to haunt. And they would give me fake IDs because I was so much younger than them. And I would go in. Well, the guys, after a while, they began to know that I was too young. So there was an upstairs. So we would sneak upstairs so they wouldn't find me. Well, everybody knew. All the guys knew where I was. So they would look at me and say, out. So I would have to leave.
Oh.
But then I'd come back in downstairs.
Nina, you were shady.
Yeah, I was.
And I call you Nina because your grandkids call you Nina.
Yes.
So I slip into Nina every now and then.
My grandson named me that at age 2. We never did figure out what he meant by Nina, but
it's stuck for everybody.
It's stuck.
Now we all call you Nina.
Everybody calls me Nina. Mm-hmm. Yes. But they used to get me in trouble a lot. The girls were older, so they could stay.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just was one that they knew me when I walked in. Mm-hmm. So some of the guys had just, some of them would put me out. There was others that didn't.
Yeah.
They would let me alone. So they would leave me alone. So, but anyway, it was quite a show, I tell you.
Well, I guess anyone that knows me, if you've ever wondered where I got my partying nature, it was one half because the other half came from my dad, who we'll probably discuss here shortly. Yes. Speaking of, at what point did you meet your future betrothed?
Well, I was living with these 3 girls, and we lived off of Olentangy. No.
Yeah, is that when you lived in University Village?
We lived in University Village.
I lived there too.
Yes, and they brought a couple of the girls were dating people. These guys. Well, they brought David to meet me, and they were going to fix me up with David.
Now, let's pause for a minute, because at that point, Dad was older. He was a solid bachelor.
Yes, he was.
No woman had caught him yet. So now go on.
Well, he was 14 years older than me, and I wasn't impressed with him at all. The first thing he said to me was, "Oh my, you have cow eyes," which wasn't very flattering, I thought.
He said you had beautiful bovine eyes.
Beautiful bovine eyes. Yeah.
My dad was from Southern Ohio, of another very rural area. My dad was very outdoorsy, very much a man of the land. So to him, that was probably a compliment.
Well, it could be, yes.
And he was probably drinking.
Yes, he was. But I didn't care for him. But he was stuck on me, I guess, because he kept coming to visit.
And that was an hour and a half away.
Yes. And actually, one weekend I had a date with someone else. Oh. Yes. Actually, he was a waiter at South Heidelberg.
Oh my God.
And so David comes in and sits down, and they sit there and talk. So finally, the guy from the Heidelberg, he left after a while, yeah. And then, of course, David was still there. So, yeah, we started dating then. Mm-hmm. We were dating then. And we dated for probably a year and a half, something like that. And he took me to meet his sister, who lived in Dayton at the time. And they were all excited because he was so much older and he had never brought a girl to any place. They had never met any of his girlfriends or anything. So she called everyone in the family to tell him that he had brought a girl to meet, for her to meet. Mm-hmm. So they got all excited and they said, "Oh, what does she do?" And she said, "You'll never guess what she does." And they said, "Oh, a school teacher," because there was a lot of school teachers in his family. And they said, "No, a beautician." And everybody, "Oh, that's nice. Yeah, we could use a beautician."
That means you could fix yourself up.
But anyway, we got married in 1963.
And that day, which I always remember because you guys talked about it. You pretty much eloped, right?
Yes.
And was it that you and Dad were hungry before you got to the church? And where was it that you went to get some lunch?
We were supposed to meet the couple that stood up with us. We were supposed to meet them at the Presbyterian Church
in Gahanna.
Mm-hmm. So David was hungry. So we stopped at the restaurant on the corner of
High and Morse
Road,
which was Jerry's Drive-In. The one with if you're familiar with Columbus, that big arrow that used to sit on the TJs, that previous restaurant was Jerry's Drive-In.
Yes, that's where we went. And we ate and we met the couple at the church. And
weren't you late?
Yes. We were, because the guy that was standing up with him thought we had backed out. But we were just late eating because we were hungry.
Yeah, well, priorities.
So we proceeded to get married. Well, when I put the ring on David's finger, it kind of stuck. It didn't want to go on.
Oh.
So the best man thought that was hilarious because he was not wanting to get married. He had shied away from marriage for so long that he was fighting that or something. But it was funny. And it turns out that the minister that married us was the next Republican National Convention. He was the minister that gave the prayer.
Oh, wow.
At the National Convention. So, yes, that was... But yes, we had... And then I was ready to move to Jackson. And my boss, who I had worked with in his booth for a year, and then I had my own chair. He had an accident with a saw, an electric saw, and he had cut his hand really bad. So he begged me to stay to do his people's hair and mine. So I combined them both and stay for 5 or 6 weeks. I can't remember now. It's just about 6 weeks, I think. I stayed in Columbus to help him out until he was able to come back to work. So that was quite a challenge there, too, because, David had to find a place for us to live and all that while I was still working in Columbus.
Yeah.
But I eventually made it to Jackson.
And you stayed there for 50 years? 50?
Well,
51?
It was 54 or 55 years. So, it was probably, I was there longer than I've been anywhere else. Let's put it that way.
Sometimes, unfortunately.
Well, I won't say that. Yeah.
So right after you got married, did you guys travel at all on a honeymoon, or did you go anywhere on any travels?
No. We never went to no, not then.
Yeah.
I mean, we traveled quite a bit in later years, but not when we first got married, because I was tied up in Columbus for 6 weeks and then trying to get everything settled. And then I got pregnant with our first child, who was born, and he passed away at 3 days old. So that was quite an adjustment. I mean, we both went through a lot of emotional ups and downs at that time. But other than that, after I had Davy, I did work for a couple of the gals that had shops in Jackson. They would go on vacation or something, and then I would fill in for them while they were gone, or if they had to have a day off, I would do that. But then after I had my first daughter, I didn't work anymore at that time. So that kind of ended my trip with the scissors and the razors.
But you never gave them up, because you would often do hair for your friends and stuff. And I remember that being little, and like your best friend would come over and you'd cut her hair.
I cut her hair for years.
You cut our hair.
Yeah. So I would cut my friend's hair. She would come and I would do her hair. And I did her hair for a long, long time. But other than that, to work in a shop, I never worked in a shop again. So then I went to Big Bear, I guess.
Yes, you did.
That was after you girls were in school.
Yeah.
I kind of waited until you girls were in school.
And you were usually home by the time I got home from school or like shortly after.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Once in a great while, I would have to work at night. But sometimes, David would be home and take care of you girls while I was working in the evening. I would get home by 10 o'clock or something like that. And I worked for Big Bear for 18 years.
Yeah, you were there a long time. And then they closed. This was about the time they were closing.
They did close.
Yeah.
That's when I quit. That's when I was gone, was when they closed shop.
Yeah, and it should be noted that at that point, you decided to go back to college. And
I had started classes before that when I was working at Big Bear. I had got quite a few classes in. So then after Big Bear closed, I just finished my year out at University of Rio Grande.
One thing I think was a common thread that you both kind of instilled in us was how important education is.
Definitely.
And it was always, I don't know if you ever realize it or whatever, but meant a lot to see that what hard work was like, and that even though you were older, you were in your late 50s when you went back to school? 60s.
No, I was 50.
You were 50?
Remember, they sent me black flower balloons for my birthday?
Yeah, that's right. And when you were in class.
Mm-hmm.
And it was during the time I was in college, I think. There was a little bit of overlap, wasn't there?
There was.
Yeah.
There was.
So it was so commendable and to see you like at your graduation and stuff. And, education is so important at any age. And it's something that I was super proud of you for even doing that, because a lot of people shy away from it. But you went in there with all those young bucks and went back to school.
Well, I had a few of them approach me and tell me that they admired me for going to school when I was older.
Yeah.
And they were a lot of nice young kids that I went to school with. And a lot of professors I liked too were great. They always acknowledged that there was an older person in their class and
life experience.
Right. But it was well worth it. It was well worth it.
And then, so your career changed again. And what did you finish out your career in?
Well, I finished out as a preschool teacher at a Christian school, and I was there 8 years, and it was fun. That was fun.
You've seen a lot of kids grow up and get married, and it's so funny.
I'm still friends with a lot of the parents on Facebook, and a lot of them I see that's grown up and they're married now and they have kids, and it's just, it's wonderful. And some of them, I have some of the kids I'm friends with they keep in touch with me.
I know. I love to see all those old pictures of you with the kids. It's
but fun. They were cute. And they had so many funny things. There was our youth
pastor
he and I always laughed and said we should write a book, because some of the things that he would hear and I would hear was just hilarious. I've had him ask me if I had a job.
You're like, no, I
don't have a job. No, I just come see you. I've had him tell me where to buy the best steak at Kmart, by the way. I've had him tell me so many stories. I wished I had written them down because they were so funny.
Yeah.
They were so funny.
Yeah, little kids are funny.
Yeah, they are. When they're 3 and 4 year olds, you just don't know what they're going to tell you.
No, because they'll tell you the truth.
Oh, yes, they do. They very definitely do. They very definitely do.
Oftentimes more than you probably want to hear.
Yes. There were comments that I totally ignored because I didn't want to go there from what they would tell me.
Right.
And I think I've had teachers that you were in school that told a tale or two. Yeah, that one friend that she was my friend and she was your teacher, and some of the things you would say.
Yeah.
So I think all kids do that.
Oh yeah,
they're all like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were all good kids. I loved them all, and the only problems I had was once a great while parent. But that was
anything in education.
Well, it is. It's a very, very
hard profession,
hard job, very, very difficult. And I admire anyone that goes for years and years in teaching.
Yeah, I think especially now it's very.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible, and it makes you want to leave it. And
unfortunately,
and
good teachers go.
You really love what you do.
Yeah.
But then, someone wants to ruin it for you. So, but you just get used to going with the blows. After so many years, you get used to that. So,
yeah. So through the years, my dad was one to, we'd always travel and do educational vacations and
camping
and
hiking.
Outdoorsy. Yeah. We hiked all the time. We'd make trips to Columbus on Sundays. Way back when, before City Center, there used to be an outdoor ice rink there called the Centrum. We'd come up and ice skate there, although he was very opinionated about the ice. He said it was too bumpy.
Right, exactly.
He's very opinionated about those things. What were some memorable trips that you remember with Dad?
With David?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we traveled quite a bit.
Yeah.
We went to the Grand Canyon. I don't know if you went with us or not.
I was probably a baby if I was. I think this was before.
I think this was before. We went to the Grand Canyon and we traveled around Colorado and all the western states. And the one thing that I remember most is him driving me across this bridge. It's in Colorado, and it's a very famous bridge, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's on a thing on YouTube. It shows this bridge. Well, we had this little VW bug, and he started across that bridge, and it was a wooden bridge, and it started to shake and rattle, and it was like straight down. And the train at the bottom looked like little toy cars. And I laid on the floor.
You weren't one for height.
No, and I'm still not. But that was probably the scariest I think I've ever been. And I laid on the floor until I got to the other side. And then I started to cry because we had to go back across it again. And he thought it was hilarious.
Oh, of course.
He thought it was hilarious. And he got a big thrill out of it. But we traveled there. We've gone to visit his nephew in Leavenworth, Washington.
You've been to Boston.
We've been to Boston. We've been to Germany, Austria. I've been to Ireland, which he didn't.
Yeah.
But didn't live long enough to get to that. But we've traveled all over. We've been to Florida, down New Orleans. We went to New Orleans one summer. He was in the Elks, and he as an exalted ruler. We went there for a big convention. So we've traveled all over the United States, California, Arizona. The only part I didn't get to was Montana.
Oh, yeah.
And that was his favorite area.
Yeah.
He used to, before he was married, he would go camping by himself or with his nephew. And they would go through Montana and then camp out. And he thought that was the most gorgeous spot. But he never took me.
Yeah.
And he should have.
He wanted that land to remain unspoiled.
That could be. Yes.
I remember when I moved out to California, I'd call at the end of every day just so you know where I was. He'd be all excited about where I was and what I'd seen. And I told him I saw dust devils and those little tumbleweeds and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. But he was a very big outdoorsman.
Oh, yes.
He played golf,
mm-hmm.
everything outside. He was ready to go. But do you remember the hikes we used to do out at the lake?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We used to go hiking all the time.
Yeah.
We'd identify leaves and it was, yeah.
Yeah, he was very
everything outdoorsy I learned from him.
Yeah. He was very athletic.
He was. And I didn't inherit any kind of athleticism. I could ice skate. He taught us to ice skate when we were barely walking.
Well, we used to go to the rink at OU.
Mm-hmm. We used to ice skate on ponds, on lakes.
On lakes. Yes.
I remember very vividly one time, must have been a brutally cold winter. And we had some brutal winters back then.
Yes, we did.
But we went to Lake Alma, which is down in Jackson County near Wellston, and we ice skated on Lake Alma, and he always tested the ice. We didn't just go out willy-nilly. And he always said it had to be like a 5-inch thickness or more.
Yeah, he would.
Before he'd get on it. And he would test it closer to the land.
Right.
Because,
that's exactly right. Yeah.
But I remember being out on that ice and you could hear like the bubbles underneath. I'd be like, oh.
And you could hear it crack. And you'd think, oh, goodness, we're going to go down.
Yeah, but we never did.
No, we never did. No, that was just the expanding and the contraction of the ice.
Yeah, but I totally remember that trip very vividly. And then I remember another time when he was always big on teaching us safety.
Absolutely.
And we went canoeing and he would tip us over purposely.
Yes.
So we would learn how to tip the canoe back over and get back in safely.
I remember he and I went canoeing with my friend and her husband. We went down to Rio Grande.
Oh, I was on that trip. You got stuck on a log.
Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm.
I got stuck on a log and the canoe went away.
Yeah.
And I was standing on a log and I couldn't get to the canoe. I have tipped over in canoes and practically almost drowned it. And
I have a lot of short stories about Mom and her outdoor escapades. One of them was probably that I mentioned you getting stuck on logs and things when we'd canoe. We had a large yard. And it was our house was on a hill, and every winter we'd get out the skis and ski down the hill. Well, at the bottom of our hill was a creek, and you come up, it would kind of be a little bit of an embankment kind of thing.
Correct. Yes.
And this one particular winter, you went down on the skis and you got stuck on the embankment or something.
Well, David,
there's a pile of bricks down there and you got stuck on it.
David had piled a pile of bricks down at the end, and it was my turn to go down the hill. So I go down and I come up onto the brick and I can't back down. I can't go forward.
You were half on, half off.
Right. Correct. And I couldn't go anywhere. So he brought the car down, or the truck. The truck.
Mm-hmm.
And he towed me off.
Mm-hmm. He used to have to tow us back up the driveway.
He would tow us up the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He was very catchy about doing things like that.
Yep. And then on the other side, we had a fence. And on the other side of the fence row was a huge steep hill down to the on-ramp of the highway that was right by our house. And that was an awesome hill for sledding, although quite dangerous, I'm sure. But I mean, it was the 80s.
Well,
and
it
70s.
was.
But we had this round saucer sled, and we'd go down, and there was a ditch at the bottom, and you'd ramp up over.
And go across the road. Yeah, you'd have to. Mm-hmm. It got kind of touchy at times. I remember you and your little friend did that.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I have pictures of you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Lori used to do that too. She would go down. We had some good times.
We did.
We've had a good life.
Yes.
We've had a good life. We had David as a teacher.
We always thought of him as like the Papa Bear on the Berenstain Bears, because he'd always be like, let Papa show you how. And sometimes it wouldn't work out the way he planned, but
he tried.
He tried.
But I remember he would take us over to OU, skate on the rink.
Oh, yeah, we skated there all the time.
And I would have to hold on to the side because I'd never learned to skate.
You were a good sport because
never learned to stand up on
sports
skate.
of any kind were not your forte.
Well, on the lake, I used to use a chair.
Oh, yeah.
A lawn chair. And I would hold on to the lawn chair and try to skate.
Didn't he take you water skiing one time?
My goodness, yes.
What happened on that trip?
Well, I've been water skiing with him a couple times. Mm-hmm. And the first time was with a family from Jackson, and we went down to Gallipolis and was on. Now, that one I was rather successful at because I had someone that was running the boat that knew what he was doing. But then we went to the Scioto. Mm-hmm. We were over on the Scioto. And I was working at the time. I think we were dating at the time. And we decided we were going to go, another couple and I, we decided we were going to go water skiing. I still don't know who was driving the boat. But I got up. The boat got me up. Mm-hmm. But I fell forward and the skis hit my leg. And I was black and blue on my left leg, all the way from my hip, all the way down to my knee.
Ooh.
And I was black and blue. I was lucky I did not get a broken
femur
out of that. And the next day at work, I could hardly stand up. Actually, I think I missed a day of work because I got sunburned terrible because I just burned to a crisp anyway. And I
You
know
had
better.
terrible luck on these outings.
Yes, he was so sporty, and I was just the opposite.
Well, wasn't one of the first dates you went on was up in Mansfield skiing?
Our first date.
The first date, he had never been on skis before. He put on skis, and you would think he was a professional coming down the slope.
Exactly. We went up to Mansfield, and there was 5 of us that went. And this one guy that was with, he didn't have a date, but he went with the same way. And it was hilarious going up. And we got on the skis. Well, David and his buddy got on the lift, and they went up to the top. Mm-hmm. He had never been skiing before. And he come down that hill, just never fell, nothing. This is unbelievable, just unbelievable. Well, his other friend and my friend, we were on the bunny slope. And the other guy, we got up halfway learning how to walk up sideways. And he turned around and he was backwards. He come down backwards and threw his poles out and was yelling, "Look out, look out." That was quite an adventure. Yes, it was. That was our first date. It was so funny. We have a lot of tales.
Yes.
In our 51 years of marriage, there's a lot of tales.
A lot of stories.
Yes, a lot of them. We had super good friends, 5 couples.
Yeah, and we always used to get together for all these parties and all the time.
All the time.
And the kids would always come too. It's not like sometimes you had your card clubs where you would just go during the week. Yes. But if there were I remember 4th of July parties and holiday parties, everyone would include their kids and stuff. So we were around each other our whole lives. So they were all second mothers, really.
Exactly. We were.
But yeah, it was always a good time.
Yeah.
So I learned how to party from the best.
We had one couple that we were really good friends with. They had a farm, and we used to go out, and they bought a horse. David and his buddy, they bought a horse. And they'd ride that horse. And David's buddy, his mother was still living. And they brought her out one day, and she got on that horse and rode the horse. And she did a great job. Mm-hmm. And she was up in her 80s. And we just had parties out their farm.
Oh, yeah.
Quite a bit.
I used to ride a horse, horse out there, too. Yeah, I was out there all the time. I'd go hunting with my dad when I was little.
Sure.
I had my own hunting license.
Yeah, you did. You had a little patch on your back.
did have a tendency to scare the squirrels away, though, if my dad was.
He and I when we were first married, we'd go out at that time, you never saw any of these
turkeys?
Wild turkeys.
Oh, yeah.
At that time, you never really saw wild turkeys.
Well, you had to get there. They're only out in the break of dawn, right?
Yes, but now you see them all over and all the time. I have no idea. Back then, there were not that many of them. Mm-hmm. And he would get up 4 o'clock in the morning, and he'd say, "You want to go with me?" And he would go out to listen to turkeys. And we would go out in the boondocks, and we would sit and listen to the turkeys. And then we come back in, and we'd have breakfast somewhere. We had quite an eventful life.
Yeah. So, something else I always remember Dad doing, and I always would go with him. He was always tasked to procure the mistletoe for my sister's mistletoe dances at high school. And if anyone is not familiar, mistletoe grows in the tops of trees. My dad would know where to find mistletoe.
Right.
And he would live mistletoe.
And actually, you know how they used to get it down? Mm-mm. Shoot it.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
They used to go out and shoot at it until it fell down.
Yeah,
I can truthfully say that I have had a fantastic life. Yeah. I really have.
Yeah, we were lucky to have great parents. A great community. And
we had a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of fun. We had 5 couples that we ran around with. And we were always, every month, one would take a turn, and we would have dinner at our house. And we did that for years. And I'm sorry to say that I'm the last one left.
I know.
And I miss them all very, very much.
Yeah, that's sad.
I can just sit and listen, or remember stuff and just laugh. And my best friend passed away 2 years ago. She was my really best friend.
Yeah.
And I miss her every day because I talked to her. She was in Florida, but I talked to her about every day. And I keep in touch with her kids and all the kids. But we had a good life.
I know.
Good life.
Well, we still do. We force you to go places now and get out. Even when you don't feel like it, we take you places. We have, you and I have gone to Garth Brooks' concert a couple years ago. You want to see Greta Van Fleet at some point. Because now you're digging Greta Van Fleet. And yesterday I introduced you to the Struts. And now you're all about the Struts.
Yes, they were very good. I was very impressed with them. My top guy is I'm hoping that he gets back on the trail is Bon Jovi.
I know.
He's really good. He's really good. But I've seen Elton John.
Yeah.
We went to see... Who else did we? Where we sat down front.
Oh, Van Halen.
Van Halen.
So that show was funny because I threw down the funds to actually do a meet and greet, and I didn't tell you ahead of time that I had gotten those. And they didn't tell you they didn't give you your seats specifically until you got there. And what it was like a whole afternoon. You got to go to sound check.
Exactly.
And this was Sammy Hagar. It was like one of their last tours, I think, when they came to Columbus. But I remember picking you up and you're like, why are we here so early? Because it was like in the middle of the afternoon. I said, well, I kind of bought us meet and greet tickets. You're like, what? And you were all excited. And we got inside and they gave us our little lanyards. And we got down in front of the stage because they were going to do sound check. And I turned around at the sound booth. There's old Alex Van Halen just whooping it up with the sound guys. And I turn around and here comes Sammy and Ed and Michael Anthony. My mom flirts with Michael Anthony the whole time. She's like, can you give he gave you a pick or something, didn't he?
Well, he signed an autograph for me. Gave me a pick.
Yes.
And then I said, could you sign this for my daughter? And he started laughing. He said, I absolutely can. Yes.
It's hilarious. So then we go backstage after sound check and we hang out there for a while, have snacks and all this stuff. They had giveaways, like raffles. What did my mom do? She won a shirt.
I did. I won that shirt, but I gave it to you later.
Yes, you did. I still have it. And so back there, we found out that our seats were second row center for that show.
Exactly.
Best concert ever. Mom got to see the front row girls throw themselves at the guys, showing their boobies.
Oh, yes. It was quite entertaining.
Quite a night.
Just to watch the girls throw themselves on the stage.
It was really funny.
And I had to wear earplugs because the sound system
loud.
Was right there beside me. And I had to put my earplugs in. But that was a show and a half. Mm-hmm. That was a show. That's probably one of the best concerts I've ever gone to.
Well, because you were down in front.
Right.
The down in front show is very different from the nosebleed shows.
Right. But I did enjoy the Elton John one.
Oh, yeah.
I did wave at him.
No,
I did wave at him, and he waved back.
Those seats were thanks to Ticketmaster when I had that short stint.
Right.
Ugh, it was horrible.
So we've seen quite a few, and you're still going.
Yes. Mike and I still enjoy our concerts.
Yes.
This year is a big year for us, but that's where we like to go.
Well, I'm kind of out. I would like to see Greta Van Fleet.
Yeah, well, they were supposed to come to Columbus, but now they're not doing that Guy Fieri Fest or whatever it was. So we were gonna go to that, but
yeah, we planned that.
I know. You love your Greta Van Fleet.
Oh, and I also like Poison.
Mom loves her rock and roll.
Well, you think about it. I grew up I graduated in 59 and I was 17. So all I heard was rock and roll, hard rock and rock.
Yeah.
And you girls came along and I listened to all your music all the way through your school years. And I liked that type of music.
I was always impressed because you either knew who it was that we were listening to or the fact that, some parents I met a lot of friends along the way, some parents wouldn't let their kids listen to certain things. You never told us that we couldn't listen to something. You never told us there wasn't something we couldn't read or something like that. Yeah, you were always into listening to stuff. Dad liked Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh, yeah.
Because he found out that Captain and Tennille had something to do with like discovering them or something. So he was all into Smashing Pumpkins.
Right.
And
he was big on music.
Yeah,
he loved
music.
He loved music.
So music was always in our house, and you never told us that we couldn't listen to something.
Well, he took us. We all went to concerts together.
We saw Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
I went with him to see Lyle Lovett.
Yeah, I refused to go to that one because Lyle Lovett just did nothing for me.
Yeah, but I mean, I went with him.
He loved it.
Yeah, he loved Lyle Lovett.
But he did. He went to a lot of the shows and stuff.
And he used to watch Austin City Limits all the time. And we'd make fun of him. Now what do I watch? Austin City Limits.
Right, exactly. I think there's a little David in there.
Yeah, yeah.
But he was a good father, a good husband.
Yep.
Good guy.
Well, you were
missing.
You were a good mom. You still are a good mom.
Well, thank you. You and Lori have been great daughters.
Well, we've gotten into some scrapes.
Well, you have, but we've kind of brushed that aside.
What was your favorite scrape I got into? I know the story, so you can go ahead and tell it.
I can tell it.
You can tell it, because it's pretty funny.
Well, one night...
No names, please.
No, I'm not using names on anybody. Amanda went to a party, and I think she was a senior in high school.
Well, and by party in southeastern Ohio, that usually meant hanging out in a cornfield.
Correct. With a huge crowd.
Yeah.
Right.
That same old crowd.
Right. Well, I think she got into beer somewhere along the line.
Maybe.
And she always had a set time to be home. That was most important. She had to be home by that time.
Yeah.
So that night it was 11 or 12 o'clock.
I think it was midnight. By the time I was a senior, I think it had been.
And I think it was a hot.
Because you always said nothing good ever happens after midnight.
Right.
So that was the top.
Well, and another thing is I think it was a Saturday night because you were off the next day.
Yeah.
So you had a later time period to be in. So I looked at the clock. I was in bed and I looked at the clock and I thought, she's being out a little later than what I thought. I can't figure out why maybe she should be coming home. So
now let's see. You were supposed to be at card club. You had a card club event that night too.
Well, yeah, I did.
At your friend's house.
Right. Mm-hmm. So,
which I knew.
Yes. So I was sitting on the couch and I waited and 12 o'clock she walks in the door.
On time.
Well, that's the story. I said, and her hair was standing on end, just standing on end. She looked like she had been dragged through a windmill.
It's almost as if I had, I'd gotten out of the shower, and it's almost as if you'd dry your hair against like a 2x4 and then dried it straight up and then hairsprayed it straight up. So it was like almost
straight up.
Yeah.
And I said, "Where have you been?" And she's standing there and she points a finger at me.
Which isn't something I should do.
No way ever do you point your finger at your dad or mother. And she says, "But I'm on time."
I'm on time.
Well, that did the trick.
Well, at that point, that is the moment where you poked me in the shoulder and my balance was a little off.
Right.
And I fell onto the couch.
So then the next day,
I was sick.
She was very, very ill.
Mm-hmm.
And her dad was very good at never yelling at them or telling, after they've done something they shouldn't have. He was very quiet. He never mentioned it.
Too quiet.
Too quiet, yes. And the next day he would say, he told her, he said, the mower is out there.
And this was in the heat of summer in southern Ohio when the humidity is about 85%.
Exactly.
And it was about 95 degrees. And I was sweating buckets and really nauseous. So we had a huge yard, and I had to mow the yard that day.
Right.
And he decided a great lunch idea would be for me to drive down to Kentucky Fried Chicken and get a bucket of chicken.
Right.
Oh, that was enough for me to never do that again.
Yes.
Under his roof.
Actually, both you girls have had to mow the yard. Difference of times.
Yeah.
But he was very, very clever about how he approached stuff. Punishments were quiet. And you were punished once you got off of the mower.
Yeah, he thought that was probably the best because how awful to have to mow when
he probably
doubling over.
He probably has mowed himself in that situation.
That was punishment enough.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure. And Lori had the same. She had an incident where she had to mow the next day. So it didn't happen very often, but
no.
you were
overall
good.
we were
You were
decent
good
children.
Decent, yes, except for Lori's party.
Oh, yeah. We'll save that for a podcast when I get her on here. We were going to have her on this episode, but she's busy moving, and I didn't want to bother her with that.
No.
But probably this summer, we're going to do a mother-daughters podcast episode where we get into some nitty-gritty of some of our
what it was
escapades.
like. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's now back in Ohio.
Yeah, after
28 years.
28 years. Yep. She's been all around, and she's
been
back.
In like 4 states. She's lived in 4 different states.
Yep. So now she's really going to be on Mom to get her out and walking around.
Well, she did the other day. She came to Columbus. She had a truckload and she put it in my garage. And so she said, "Okay, Mom, let's go. We're going to go out." By the time I got back that evening, I was worn totally out.
Yeah.
She'll do that. Oh, yes, she will. She, being a Nancy nurse, she gets me hopping.
So I'm looking forward to more visits with the big sister, the much older
sister, yes.
Yeah, so that'll be nice to have her back in town, but she is going to be voluntold to be on this podcast.
Yes.
Eventually.
Yes. Well, I think she was planning today, but she was so busy.
Yeah, she's got a lot on her plate.
Right, she did.
She's never been to Jungle Gyms down in Cincinnati, so that's where I'm going to take her.
Well, I've never been either.
I thought we took you once.
No, you never took me. You always said you were going to take me, and you never took me.
We love Jungle Gyms.
Well,
it's a destination.
I just asked you if there's a lot of benches because I need to sit.
There are. Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
So we've had a long, long road from these little German hair cutting scissors.
Yes, they are German.
Yeah, they are German. These are nice. This whole life came from these little scissors because if you hadn't gone to beauty school you did, met the people you did, I wouldn't be here and we wouldn't be doing this today.
Exactly.
So with that, I will say, Mama, thank you for agreeing to do this today. I appreciate your time.
Well, you are welcome.
I will give you a hearty, happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
We'll probably go to Matt the Miller's for Bloody Marys and the brunch bar.
Oh.
Just so you know.
Wow. Surprise. I'm ready for Matt the Miller's.
Excellent. Yeah. And we will rock out in the car to Greta Van Fleet.
Yes.
And Bon Jovi.
And Bon Jovi. Thank you.
All right. Well, Mom, thanks for being here today. And to everyone out there, thanks for listening. If you want to get in touch with me to talk about what's in your junk drawer, drop me an email at mybigfatjunkdrawer@gmail.com. You can also find me at mybigfatjunkdrawer.com. That's my website. Oh, fancy. And you can find this podcast on Spotify, Apple, and now YouTube, anywhere really you play your podcast. Put me on when you're walking around, walking your dog. It's a good time. Thanks. Subscribe, like, all of that social media business, and we will see you next time. Bye.